Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining today's stream. It's 24th of November, 11 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments that Russian media is focused on, and hopefully you will find this news update informative and interesting, useful, entertaining, maybe even. And if so, dear friends, please like the video, share with your friends if you can, and leave some commentary. This might help to deal with the algorithm, as you know. And if you want to have a discussion after news segment about any topic, send your question through super chat feature on Rumble. As you know, I'm streaming on both my channels, on YouTube and Rumble simultaneously. So send your question or topic of discussion through super chat on Rumble, or use other support platforms, Boosty, PayPal, and so on. And we will have a discussion after news segment. That's been said, dear friends, let's start the news update. Although I want to just let you know that even though weather is not really nice today in Moscow, I'll try to make some walk and talk video for our Patreon and Boosty communities, and probably I will publish some short clips at least from this second news update on YouTube and Rumble. So if you come across short videos of mine, maybe from this live stream and also from next update, and if you have time, please pay some attention to it. That will be also helpful, of course. Of course, that's been said. Let's start news update now. And well, let me give you a shorter update on the battlefield. First of all, in Kherson direction, no major developments are taking place right now. In Zaporozhye sector, as you know, Russian troops are already launched their offensive operation in direction of Gulyai Pole. Reports are coming in that Russian armed forces just in previous 24 to 48 hours established control over the Zelyony Gai, Visyoka, and the cleaning operation is underway in the Zatishi area, which means that basically from eastern, northern, and southern flank, Russian troops are standing right before Gulyai Pole. So most likely this week we will see first units of the Russian armed forces entering the Gulyai Pole itself, and simultaneously I expect Russian militaries to launch offensive operation in Orekhov direction. I will just remind you, dear friends, that about a week ago, Russian militaries established control over the Malaya Takmachka settlement, which is located on the southern eastern flank of Orekhov city. These are two major strongholds of Kiev regime on the eastern and central parts of Zaporozhye sector. When it comes to Dnipropetrovsk direction, yesterday I shared information about further progress of the Russian armed forces in this area. Atradnaya settlement was liberated by Russian troops, and also settlement of Tikhae, and there is a high probability that Russian armed forces crossed the Volchya River and already are conducting operations inside the Kolomytsy settlement on the right bank of Volchya River. When it comes to Pokrovsk Mirnograd direction, which is DPR, of course, no major changes at this point. No reports about some groundbreaking developments. Russian troops are in control of Pokrovsk, and clearing operation is underway. And when it comes to Mirnograd, well, Russian troops are taking time before launching final assault to neutralize enemy forces in Mirnograd. I have seen numerous reports and videos when about Russian troops trying their best basically to inform the encircled garrison of Kiev regime in Mirnograd to how they can contact Russian side to lay down arms and surrender. And my guess is hundreds of troops of Kiev regime will do exactly that. And this week probably we will see videos of mass surrender of Kiev regime's troops in Mirnograd city. Also, reports are coming in about activization of the Russian operations in Konstantinovka area. Denis Pushilin, head of DPR, Donetsk People's Republic, is even reported that Kiev regime's forces are fleeing now central parts of Konstantinovka and leaving behind military equipment and even wounded military personnel. This information may come as a sort of surprise because at least until now, we knew that the Russian troops were conducting clearing operation in the most southeastern part of the Konstantinovka. And if Kiev regime's forces are fleeing central parts of the city, that can be seen as at least an indirect confirmation that Russian troops actually reached central areas of the Konstantinovka. Of course, more information is needed, more clarification, because we don't know what exactly Pushilin meant by this statement, but Russian troops are becoming more and more active in Konstantinovka area also, which is quite understandable. Significant number of Russian troops probably will be released now from Pokrovsk-Mirnograd agglomeration area, and some of them could be redeployed towards Konstantinovka. It does make sense. When it comes to other sectors, in Seversk direction, Russian troops on the southern-western flank of Seversk liberated Pazino settlement. Also, just a few days ago, I reported about significant progress of the Russian troops on the southern directions. One of the settlement was liberated, and already offensive operation is being conducted in Sviato Pokrovsk direction, another settlement on the southern western flank of Seversk. And when it comes to city itself, Russian troops are controlling 15 to 25% of their city on the southern side already. Also, Russian troops continue to improve their positions in between Seversk and Liman city, and major development in this area was the liberation of Yampol. Of course, that was a big deal, and this information came as a surprise, by the way. Some military channels still are struggling to acknowledge this progress of the Russian militaries. That's how surprising this development was. And also, clearing operation is being finalized in Platonovka area, which is located right next to this main supply and support line that that Kiev regime's garrison in Seversk used to operate with, right, to receive reinforcement and resupplies. But now Russian troops have direct fire control on this road, and Seversk garrison basically is in operational encirclement. One might argue also Russian troops advancing in the direction of Liman from three directions, from western, northern, and eastern directions. And well, earlier I predicted that maybe Liman will be liberated earlier than Seversk, well, I still think there is such possibility that Russian troops will liberate Liman first. Although lately we did observe very significant progress of the Russian forces in Seversk itself. So, hard to have a strong opinion which settlement is going to be liberated first. And this is, of course, major two strongholds of Kiev regime on the northern flank of DPR, Seversk and Liman. When it comes to Kupiansk, cities under Russian control, there are a significant number of Kiev regime troops that are trapped basically on the left bank of the Oskol River, and the Russian forces are taking time. They are not in no hurry to basically finalize clearing operation on the left bank. Although Kiev regime troops literally on daily basis are trying to escape this encirclement, and small groups are trying to reach Oskol River, cross Oskol River, and run towards Kiev-controlled territory. Some of them are successful, we can imagine. Some small groups might actually manage to escape, but only some. There is no way units like platoon or higher can move around this area on the southeastern side of Kupiansk without being detected and destroyed by Russian forces. And also their friends when it comes, and Kupiansk is of course Kharkov region. And when it comes to Kharkov region, we also are receiving reports about further progress of the Russian armed forces in Volchansk area, and their situation is so difficult for Kiev regime that, according to reports, Zelensky and his criminal associates are redeploying whatever reserves they can find now towards Volchansk in Vilcha settlement, towards the Vilcha settlement, which is located on the southern side of on southern side of Volchansk itself. Inside the city, clearing operation is underway, and maybe before end of this week, Russian Defense Ministry will report about complete liberation of the Volchansk. Although when we are talking about Russian Defense Ministry, you never know. It's an extremely conservative institution and always takes more time before making any statements. For example, Russian Defense Ministry did not yet confirm liberation of Pokrovsk, although city is under Russian control. But Russian Defense Ministry did not yet make statement about it. City is under Russian control. Yes, some groups of Kiev regime's forces are still trapped in the city, and on daily basis we are receiving information about the small groups surrendering to Russian militaries. But nevertheless, this does not change their fact that city is in Russian control. Just because few groups are trapped in some basement somewhere does not mean that Kiev regime has any control over their Pokrovsk whatsoever. And this is it when it comes to a short summary on a battlefield. Let's continue with some other news. RIA Novosti is reporting that according to Russian Defense Ministry's latest update, air defense systems on duty intercepted 93 drones past night that were launched by Kiev regime with assistance of NATO to strike deep into Russian territory. 45 drones were intercepted in Belgorod region, 20 drones over the Black Sea. I guess target of these 20 drones were Crimea. 9 drones were intercepted in Krasnodar region, 8 drones over the Azov Sea, 7 drones in Nizhny Novgorod direction, and 4 drones in Voronezh region. In Voronezh region, drone attack damaged 4 private homes and a civilian vehicle. There were no injuries, according to this report. If any update, of course, I will share additional information on that in my next update on Patreon. And dear friends, if you like my work and want to support, please follow me on Patreon. There is more news there, more exclusive content, and you can find the link under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And so, yes, if any updates, I will share additional information in next updates on my Patreon and Boosty, on Telegram and Twitter X pages. RIA Novosti is also reporting that, well, as I already mentioned, dear friends, Kiev regime is urgently deploying reinforcements towards Volchansk, towards that village that I showed you just a minute ago. So the Ukrainian armed forces are urgently deploying reinforcements to maintain their positions in Volchansk, Kharkov region. Russian security agencies told RIA Novosti Ukrainian armed forces command is urgently deploying reinforcements to hold positions there. The issue concerns the deployment of 225th Separate Assault Regiment and 48th Separate Reconnaissance Battalion to the area of village of Vilcha, he added, and I showed you this village. It's located on the southern side of, that's the village, by the way, and Kiev regime is trying to deploy their reinforcements in this area, not necessarily to reinforce whatever units they still have in Volchansk, but to somehow slow down progress of the Russian militaries, I guess, because there is no way Kiev regime can maintain their presence on a left bank of Volcha River in the city for a long time. Also, we have this report. That from TASS News Agency that I also mentioned. According to Denis Pushilin, head of Donetsk People's Republic, Ukrainian armed forces are retreating in Konstantinovka, abandoning equipment and their wounded comrades. Ukrainian armed forces have begun abandoning their equipment and wounded soldiers while retreating from the center of the Konstantinovka in the Donetsk People's Republic, according to regional governor Denis Pushilin. And dear friends, you tell me, why would the Kiev regime's forces abandon their positions in the central part of the city if Russian troops are not there yet? So therefore, I made assumption that Russian troops actually reach central areas of Konstantinovka. And we have a quote here from Denis Pushilin. Russian armed forces have expanded their zone of control in the Konstantinovka direction, where we are also recording improvements in the positions of the southern eastern and the southern parts of their town, improvements of the Russian positions in southern eastern and southern parts of the town. There are also instances of their enemy abandoning equipment and their wounded in the center of Konstantinovka itself, as they retreat, Pushilin said on the Russia 24 TV channel. And yes, yet again, I think this assumption is correct. If Kiev regime's forces are abandoning their positions in central Konstantinovka, that should mean that Russian troops are either approaching or already in the central part of the city, right? We will find out. I guess today, tomorrow, we will receive more information. But after basically final phase of operation to liberate Pokrovsk and Mirnograd is being launched, of course, many military personnel of Russian forces will be freed, basically, because there is no need now to. Pokrovsk is already under Russian control. Mirnograd is encircled, so there is no need to keep in this area tens of thousands of troops. So some of their units definitely can be redeployed towards Konstantinovka, and we will see, in that case, acceleration of the Russian offensive operations in next days for sure. Meanwhile, of course, another important topic that makes headlines here in Russia and worldwide is this Trump's 28-point peace plan. Yesterday in Geneva, there was a talks between U.S. delegation led by Marco Rubio, head of State Department, and also special envoy of U.S. President Steve Witkoff. So there was a meeting in Geneva between this American delegation led by Rubio and Witkoff with some European leaders and also Kiev regime's representatives. Kiev regime's delegation was led by Yermak, head of presidential office in Ukraine. And, Rubio stated that he just had their most productive meeting with the Ukrainians yet. That's what he said, right? Although maybe he was just a little too diplomatic while characterizing this meeting with the Ukrainian delegation and Europeans, because we have also this report that is coming from RBK Ukraine. This is Kiev-controlled media, by the way. And this Kiev-controlled media is sharing quite a different picture with us. So let me give you some details on that. So RBK Ukraine, citing sources, reports that a 28-point peace plan was presented to Ukraine in an ultimatum form. They came to us, and this is quote, they came to us with an ultimatum. If by November 27 you do not support this plan, then please deal with the Europeans yourself. We will stop everything, both arms supplies and intelligence data. We cut off everything. On the first day of their visit, their rhetoric was very harsh. True, it's softened a bit later. This was stated to RBK Ukraine by source that was most likely present at that meeting. The publication also notes that the draft agreement was presented to the Ukrainian side on November 19th, when U.S. delegation led by close associate of Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of the Army Daniel Driscoll arrived in Kiev. So, there is several scenarios we can probably discuss in regards to all these 28-point plans. I already shared my take on the situation a few times earlier. I think this is deception operation that is needed for, first of all, globalists, right? And their proxy Kiev regime. They want to, Western elites basically want to mislead Russia, misinformed Russia, create this false narrative that they are interested in the escalation, while in reality all they want and all they are demanding is immediate ceasefire. Still, Badu, they still demanding immediate ceasefire, while they know Moscow will never agree on that, right? But same time, globalists have their own reasons, right, to be engaged in this deception operation. Neocons or American political class have their own reasons, and I'm linking this 28-point plan to Caribbean crisis. Maybe you will disagree with me, dear friends. Maybe you will agree, but I think this relatively rapid advance of this yet another deception operation on part of Western elites is definitely linked not just to Ukraine, but in case of US, it definitely linked with the Caribbean crisis, because I think US leadership, US political class is actually considering to dump Ukraine and globalists if they will not succeed with this deception. They will try, American elites will participate, and they do it, by the way, right? They send their high-level delegation led by head of State Department, right, Marco Rubio. So they are in this game, right, with their globalists. But if they failed to mislead Russia, if they failed with this deception operation, and most likely they will, then I think Washington will implement Plan B, which is to actually dump Ukraine, dump Kyiv regime and their globalists in exchange for some sort of guarantees from Moscow that Russia will not seek revenge on US on state level if and when Pentagon will attack Venezuela or any other country in this world, specifically in the Caribbean, right? Because I think after Venezuela, Washington plans to target Cuba, right? That's what is going to happen, most likely, right? And this attitude from US is clearly, they are not good actors, really. This US political class, and they cannot help themselves, right? And while they talk, while they're making statements, and way they carry themselves, right, clearly demonstrates that, they are on the edge, basically, with the globalists. They are participating in this deception operation against Russia, but if it did not work, then they're going to dump Kyiv regime, they're going to dump globalists and their agendas, right? And they're going to get focused on their own priorities. And right now, priority of Washington seems to be recolonization of their southern hemisphere, because quite a number of countries in Latin America actually gained significant freedoms from the US, significant level of independence, not complete independence in many cases, but significant. And Washington is clearly not happy about it. And who is leading this charge against Latin American countries? It's a Marco Rubio, right? It's a neocons, obviously, and it's their representative in Washington, in US administration, Marco Rubio. And I think that's why Marco Rubio himself traveled to Europe, right? Not necessarily to have talks with the Kyiv regime's delegations, but to make it clear to European elites that Washington kind of had enough. They have to be focused on their priorities now. So if this deception would not work, they are out of game. Maybe that's what is going to happen. And if so, by the way, if Washington will actually stop weapon supplies, stop fueling this proxy war against Russia, if Washington will stop weapons supplies, money supplies, intelligence sharing with their NATO or Kyiv regime, that then is used against Russia. In that case, I think White House might hope that maybe Moscow will give them some sort of guarantees that on the state level, Russia will seek no revenge on US. And they need that. I mean, Washington definitely needs that, because we all understand it's not just US that can play these games of plausible deniability and conduct proxy wars. Russia can do it too, right? And if Russia wants to retaliate on US, obviously, whenever and in whichever area US will attack any country, well, Moscow can provide opponents of US with intelligence, real-time data, right, weapons. I mean, everything. Russia can do to US what US did to Russia. And the only way Washington can avoid this is if US is leaving this proxy war, if US is getting out of this proxy war that Western elites are waging against Russia, and if US agrees on very serious concessions before Russia for all the damage that was done to Russian citizens, Russian economy, Russian Federation, due to hostility from the US. And these concessions, this agreement on concessions may not be public, by the way. They can have agreement behind the closed doors, right? But if Moscow receives such a agreement from Washington that yes, they're going to agree on the concession, they're going to pull out US from this proxy war, in that case, Moscow might give them guarantees that Russia will seek no revenge on the state level. Private groups will seek revenge anyways, but Russia might not seek revenge on the state level. That's what is going on, I think. This 28-point plan and fact that Marco Rubio himself was rushed to Europe to talk about this plan is clearly indicates to me that Washington is in a hurry, by the way. You know, they are in a hurry. On one hand, they want to save face, kind of, and therefore they are engaged in this deception operation against Russia anyways. But on the other hand, probably they already made it clear, and as RBK Ukraine is commenting, U.S. delegation was using ultimatum approach that either you agree on this 28-point plan or we are out, right? And probably Washington act same way towards Europeans also. We will find out. We will find out soon. But U.S. cannot keep this massive strike force in the Caribbean indefinitely, right? Because it's a very costly endeavor. It's a logistical nightmare, right? And you know, their window of opportunity is closing because longer this standoff continues between U.S. and Venezuela, more chances Russia, China, Iran, other countries that were harmed by U.S. have, and more opportunities to help Venezuela, help Cuba, help other countries that may be targeted by U.S. With weapons, with intelligence, with whatever, right? So Washington is in a hurry, by the way, and as I said, they are quite a bad actors. This is U.S. Talking heads that were put in a position of power by true decision makers there, right? Including Trump, by the way, and they are struggling to hide their narratives, their intentions, right? And for example, Trump went after Kiev regime again, right? And Trump called them ungrateful. Ungrateful. So Donald Trump on the social media platform through social called the current Ukrainian government ungrateful, putting the word leadership in quotation marks. He was shouting. He was shouting on Kiev regime, right? That you ungrateful bastards. So you see, by the way, they are struggling to hide their intentions. They are sick and tired. I can understand. They are sick and tired of Kiev regime. They want to get rid of this stuff, by the way. They want to dump Kiev regime, right? And they want to be focused on some other areas. They are openly saying that their main priority is China, right? And they are also obviously focused on Southern Hemisphere. They want to reestablish their strict control over the Latin American countries. That's where their priorities are right now. And I think U.S. political class is basically ready to acknowledge defeat in this proxy war against Russia, to agree on the concessions before Russia, significant concessions, and to pull out U.S. from this proxy war. And things are developing in this direction, seems to me, right? Let's see. Meanwhile, by the way, Zelensky is heading towards US, and Trump will have opportunity to tell him directly what he thinks about Zelensky and his ungrateful inner circle. Reuters reported that Zelensky flies to meet Trump for most sensitive elements of the peace plan to be discussed. Sources familiar with the matter say Zelensky will travel to DC for Oval Office talks as soon as this week. So probably before end of this week, Zelensky will be there in Washington, and we might see something similar to what happened in Oval Office during Zelensky's first visit. Something similar might happen again. Let's see. When basically Trump and J.D. Vance went hard after Zelensky, by the way. You remember that, isn't it? But Europeans, meanwhile, do understand what is going on, I guess, right? Not all of them, European elites, some of them do understand what is going on. They are realizing that US is about to dump all the globalist agendas and this proxy war also and the Kyiv regime. And they are desperate. They are getting even more desperate, right? And puppet of globalists, Donald Tusk, for example, and Poland is quite an interesting example, by the way. Government is controlled by globalists, but president of Poland is more like a pro-American element, right? Nawrocki is his surname, isn't it? But government, yet again, government is completely controlled by globalists. Government is a British proxy, basically. And Donald Tusk went to mock Trump, by the way. I mean, that takes... one have to be involved quite much, isn't it? To go after U.S. leadership, U.S. administration this openly and mock them. And let me read for you what Donald Tusk wrote on his Twitter X page. Together with the leaders of Europe, Canada, and Japan, we have declared our readiness to work on 28-point plan despite some reservations. However, before we start our work, it would be good to know for sure who is the author of the plan and where was it written. Where was it created? And Donald Tusk is basically hinting there that this plan is a Russian plan, right? That's narrative, by the way, that globalists are pushing now, that this is a Russian plan, right? That serves only Russian interests and stuff. And Donald Tusk, intentionally or not, but actually insulting U.S. president, U.S. administration, everybody there, right? Telling them that they are basically Russian puppets or something, right? Tusk is mocking U.S. administration, and this will not go down well in U.S. Americans not gonna slide this kind of behavior, not from some puppets, by the way, for sure. And who the hell is Donald Tusk, man? Freaking nobody, right? Just British beach. That's all it is, really. Let's be clear on that. Right. So I wonder how Washington responds, and they're going to be some strong response. They're going to decimate Donald Tusk and his associates in Poland. Political career of these creatures are finished in Poland. I think Washington will retaliate hard against these British prostitutes. Let's continue with some other news. And the US is mocking Europe also, by the way. It's a two-way stream, sort of. And for example, US Treasury Secretary went after European elites and mocked them that, if something is done 19th time in a row with no success, that means it is not working. Besant said, basically laughing at Europeans, laughing at Brussels, that are love to brag about, well, imposing 19 packages of sanctions against Russia. And well, Besant had a point, by the way. I don't like that guy, Besant. It's a it's a despicable human being, obviously, but it is sometimes it is interesting to observe these interactions between American ruling class and globalist control regimes in Europe, right? They don't like each other. This is also obvious, isn't it? And in this particular case, Besant had a point. I mean, it was Einstein, isn't it, who said that it is stupid to do same stuff time and time again and expect different outcome. And basically, Besant paraphrased that statement. If my understanding is correct, I mean, if you did something 19 times and it did not work, then that means you've been stupid, right? You are not effective. So yes, tensions increasing between American political class and European political class, and very soon, maybe in a month or 2 months time, we might see actual divorce even between US and Europe, between globalists and American ruling elites. That would be interesting development. TASS news agency is also reporting that, well, as I said, European elites, globalists, they understand from where wind is blowing, right? They understand what might happen, and therefore, according to Financial Times, Europe is preparing for the US to withdraw its support for Ukraine. US President Donald Trump might withdraw support for Kiev. This was reported by Financial Times, citing European officials. We are obviously preparing for such a scenario, source of Financial Times said, and this source suggested that American president could withdraw support for Kiev out of disappointment. Yes, I mean, as I said, I already spoke about this stuff, isn't it? US is short on time. They build their massive strike force in Caribbean. They are, they prepare their ground for attack on Venezuela and then subsequent attack on Cuba. I think that's what their plan is. They want to do regime change in Colombia. They want to put tremendous pressure on Brazil. They want to reconquer, basically, recolonize Latin America, and they need guarantees. They need guarantees that Moscow will seek no revenge against them, and to receive such guarantees, they have to capitulate. Basically, Washington have to capitulate before Russia. That means they have to agree on concessions, significant concessions. Concessions will be in financial terms, will be in terms of tremendous investments in certain sectors of the Russian economy, technology transfer, and so on. Sides will find the ways, right, how to deal with the situation, and also, of course, U.S. have to be withdrawn from this proxy war against Russia. In that case, Moscow might, yes, give them such guarantees that Russia will seek no revenge on a state level, and well, yet again, I think this 28-point plan is kind of last attempt or last step of Washington to please globalists, sort of, or maybe even to basically create off-ramp for themselves, right? They are participating in this deception. If it works. If it not, then Washington will say, you know what, we try everything, we had enough of it, now we have our own issues and we have to face those, right? We have to be focused on that, and they might actually withdraw any support for this proxy war. And in that case, by the way, European elites might say they are ready for this and they are preparing for this scenario, but European NATO member states are in no position to prolong this proxy war much longer without US assistance. So if US is out, then I think chances that this conflict will end in 2026 will increase tremendously. Let's see. Let's see. Meanwhile, Washington Post is coming up with some quite a strange article that the U.S. and allies are planning to help Ukraine build a security wall along the ceasefire line. Some advanced technology would be used there per their peace plan. Any guarantees the money won't go to someone's golden plumbing this time? RT is asking. I saw this on RT, by the way, and of course there is no guarantees. This is a pure attempt, by the way, of some groups to make some money before they can. What ceasefire? What wall, by the way? What are they talking about? Probably Washington Post was paid or ordered basically to push this nonsensical narrative now, so that maybe some companies in military industrial complex in US and Europe will receive some funds to build a wall, funds in advance, by the way, to build some freaking wall once ceasefire will be reached, which is crazy. But yet again, hundreds of billions of dollars were transferred from taxpayers to military industrial complex, isn't it, in past several years? And there are many programs that was financed did not really produce anything, literally anything whatsoever. But money was spent, right? And this type of ideas are just prime example how European and American taxpayers' money being wasted. It's crazy, man. And some groups gonna receive actually money, billions probably, hundreds of millions for sure, to prepare plans to build the wall. And when Russian troops will reach borders of the Western Ukraine, and that's when I think special military operation will be finalized. These companies, these groups that receive these hundreds of millions or billions will say, you know what, we were ready, man. We've spent all these hundreds of millions, but we cannot put this wall now nowhere because it's all territory controlled by Russia. That's how money laundering works in the West, right? It's crazy, insane, by the way. And this is Washington Post was used for this particular nonsense, right, to push this narrative. Washington Post, one of the biggest names in Western so-called media. Anyways, let's continue with some other news. And quite interesting report is coming from Netherlands, by the way. Dutch armed forces opened fire allegedly on several drones spotted in the airspace over the Volkel Air Base on the evening of November 21st. 3 days ago. This was stated in a statement by the country's Ministry of Defense. According to Ministry, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. local time, the airbase security observed drones in their airspace above it. Ground weapons were used to neutralize them. The ministry said it was specified that after this, the drones left the airbase area and their further movement could not be tracked. The military notified the Royal Military Police and the police about the incident. We are conducting further investigation. The reasons for the drones' appearance over the military facility and their affiliation are still unknown. The Ministry of Defense also noted that for security reasons, they do not disclose their methods of detecting the devices and the characteristics of their means used against them. So, I mean, these false flag operations, globalists are going crazy, by the way. Globalists and their puppet regimes all over Europe, including in Netherlands, they are going crazy out of desperation. Totally insane, right? And look what kind of stories they are now creating. This is all nonsense, isn't it? We all understand this, brother. This is all freaking nonsense. right? But to justify this constant push for war, to justify this constant push for militarization, they need this kind of stories. They need these false flag operations, right? And they are in these false flag operations. They are going further and further in their craziness, in their madness, and now they are reporting that they actually opened fire. On what exactly? Where are the drones, man? How, did they damage any drone or no? They did not, right? Otherwise, they would present. And how are you gonna damage something that is not there to begin with? So that's the level of insanity that is dominating Europe right now. It's crazy, man. Extremely dangerous, obviously, extremely dangerous, but also sort of fun to observe, by the way, because one can wonder. I mean, how far this idiot's gonna go, man? How far? It's dangerous, yes, but in the same time, people that are well enough informed, by the way, not just in Russia, but even in Europe, probably are watching this news and are laughing, man. Because what else are you gonna do, man? Now you're gonna go either angry or you're gonna laugh, right? It's insane, but dangerous for sure, but also some sort of a tragic comedy, man, is playing out there. Also, interesting news that UK Ministry of Defense reported that they intercepted a Russian military vessel, Royal Navy of the United Kingdom intercepted the Russian corvette Stoiky and the tanker off the coast of United Kingdom, according to independent and Associate Press, citing statements from the country's Ministry of Defense. According to UK's militaries, the patrol ship HMS Severn tracked the movement of the Russian vessel through the Dover Strait and further west for 2 weeks. Later, surveillance was handed over to an unnamed NATO ally off the coast of Brittany, while HMS Severn continued monitoring from a distance. The Ministry of Defense noted, and in UK, by the way, and members of our community from UK will confirm this. In UK, paranoia is reaching some next level. In UK, paranoia among local elites and militaries are reaching clearly next level. They're constantly threatening people by Russian vessels. Just a week ago, there was a new wave of hysteria in UK, and all British media is participating in this hysteria big time. They were scaring public that, well, there is some research vessel, Russian research vessel, somewhere off coast of UK, right? And this vessel is monitoring, gathering intelligence, and this vessel is monitoring tracking underwater cables, and they intend to cut these cables. I mean, freaking madness, man, right? Freaking madness. UK militaries are engaged directly to launch missiles against Russia, right? UK militaries and intelligence are engaged in terrorist operations against Russia. And they are whining about Russian research vessel or Russian military vessel is moving around the British Islands. I mean, seriously? You are conducting acts of war against Russia on daily basis and are whining about and are hysterical about presence of one or two Russian military vessels or scientific vessels somewhere around the UK. I mean, come on, man. And why no one is asking these questions? Why no one is asking in this so-called UK media? But after all, you are launching storm shadows against Russia. You are engaged in all sorts of military hostilities against Russia while maintaining, yes, okay, plausible deniability, but we all know you are doing this. At the same time, you are hysterical about Russian vessel being off coast of UK. Is not this pathetic? But yet again, no one is challenging them, by the way, because there is no journalism in the UK. There is no journalist left in British MSM, by the way, only in alternative media. Only in alternative media. And alternative media is not allowed, not invited, by the way, right? On this, all these sorts of events and press conferences and stuff where questions, real questions can be asked, relevant questions can be asked, right? But I mean, British political and military leadership is clearly like losing it, man, losing it big time. And British media also. Level of Russia hate there, by the way. Level of Russia hate in British media, and I'm monitoring, right, as much as I can, by the way. But I'm monitoring. I'm all I do, man. Free time, I'm listening and reading some news from Western world to know direction that Western elites are pushing, and British media is unbelievably Russophobic, man, unbelievably Russophobic, which is tragic, I think, because can you imagine how many people they brainwashed in UK, and how many people are now Russia haters there just because from all the channels, from all the newspapers, from all these people are told is that Russia is bad. You have to hate Russia. You know, Russia is coming to fight war and that kind of stuff, right? While people be kept in dark in regards to acts of war that UK is committing and committed against Russia. Well, what you gonna do, man? There was a gift. Scooby just gifted a premium subscription on Rumble. Thank you very much, Scooby. This is $5 donation, basically. So thank you very much, Scooby, for support and attention. And I will highlight this after news segment. Now let's continue with the other news. And RIA Novosti is reporting that NATO military exercises have begun in Baltic Sea. Yet another military exercises, dear friends. Let me give you some details. And this is dangerous, man. This is dangerous because many of you probably will agree with opinion that is not just mine, but also many other people have expressed that one of the areas where we might actually see direct clashes between Russian and NATO troops could be Baltic region, right? Because of this tremendous level of hostilities that NATO countries are engaged in against Russia. And this report only confirms that there is truly a high risk of such a scenario being played out in the Baltics. So NATO exercises led by Finnish Navy has begun in the Baltic Sea. The Freezing Wind 25 military exercise will take place from November 24th to December 4th on the southern coast of Finland in Archipelago Sea and the Gulf of Finland. They will involve ships and the personnel from the navies of Belgium, Denmark, Estonia, France, Germany, Latvia, Lithuania, Netherlands, Poland, and the United States, as well as first standing NATO mine countermeasures group. So it's quite a large-scale maritime exercises. In total, approximately 5,000 military personnel and approximately 20 allied ships will participate in the exercises. They will also be joined by fighter jets, helicopters, and maritime surveillance aircraft. According to Finnish Navy, participants in the maneuvers will practice protecting maritime communications and critical infrastructure, defensive actions during amphibious landings, and the joint naval operations with the coastal forces. I mean, since when amphibious landings are defensive operations, by the way? I mean, these people are, man, something else, isn't it? Since when amphibious operations are defensive defense? I mean, where is the freaking logic, right? In reality, dear friends, what they do, what NATO is exercising, is to block Russian St. Petersburg port, right? That's what they do. They want they are preparing basically to escalate when globalists will go ahead with a massive escalation against Russia, and I think this is inevitable. Eventually, we will end up in a direct confrontation. Scale hard to describe, but I think at this point, war between, I mean, maybe not full-scale war, but military hostilities, let's say this way, between NATO, European NATO member states and Russia is absolutely inevitable, unfortunately, due to insane policies of the globalists and their globalist control regimes in Europe. And so what NATO countries are exercising now with these particular manners is to block Gulf of Finland, right? To block St. Petersburg. That's what they want, by the way. That's what is going on. Eventually, they dream about turning Baltic Sea into a like domestic lake of NATO, right? They want to cut off Russia from Baltics. They want to shut down Baltic Sea from Russia. Obviously, this would not work. This would not work, and I'm quite sure Russian intelligence, Russian militaries, Russian security services are working on possible countermeasures in case Western or European regimes will actually go ahead with this act of war. But yes, I mean, what can I say, man? And of course, we should keep in mind that there is also, of course, Kaliningrad region of Russia that European NATO member states love to occupy, right? And the NATO officials already said quite out loud publicly that they're going to decimate Kaliningrad region. NATO generals on several occasions said this, right? That they are preparing for this and they are ready for this, right? So hopefully Russia is ready to respond on hostile steps of European NATO member states when they will launch major escalation against Russia. So that's what these military naval exercises are all about. And Finland is used badly, man. I mean, Finnish people have to wake up until it's too late. Finland has been used by NATO, by globalists, very badly against Russia, and they will pay consequences. I mean, there are going to be consequences for that. I mean, yet again, no one wants no war with nobody here in Russia, by the way. We don't want no wars, but we have to defend ourselves, isn't it? And we all understand that Baltic states, Poland, by the way, Baltic states and Finland was used against Russia in a ways that, eventually they will face some consequences, inevitably. And better those people wake up, man. Better ordinary people in those quasi-states wake up until it's too late. Also, I think this is interesting news that Macron might announce on November 27th for the introduction of voluntary military service, according to Le Figaro, French media outlet, big name in France. According to their newspaper sources, recruitment of 10 to up to 50,000 people per year is being considered. The publication notes that several French media outlets reported that such a military service could last up to 10 months and will be paid several hundred euros. I mean, seriously, man. Seriously. they are playing around the topic of conscription, isn't it? These European countries, by the way, European NATO member states are playing around the topic of conscription, mandatory conscription. They don't know how to implement mandatory conscription straight away, right? And they are coming up with some midterm decisions, let's say, right? Germany is doing the same stuff. France now wants to do this nonsensical move. If people want to serve in French army, they can actually apply and go and serve, right? Is there any obstacles? If people are, healthy, if they have no issues with their health, they can sign up for French army and serve. What is the issue? Why they did not? Why they did not, man? Because they don't want to, right? Young generation, neither in France, neither in Germany, neither in UK, by the way, neither in Spain or any other country. Young generation don't want to be tool in hands of multinational corporations, in hands of globalists, right? They don't want to be sacrificed for a sickening geopolitical agenda of the globalists. That's what it is. And no matter how many times they're going to come up with this some midterm or temporary solutions, sort of, to prepare public for a mandatory conscription, it would not work. And eventually they will have to implement mandatory conscription. It will not go down well in public, in European public, but this is the only way they can boost the numbers of their militaries, mandatory conscription. And by the way, even then, if you take a look at the statistics in Europe in terms of young generation, well, majority of young generation cannot be even called, because of some issues like obesity issues or mental issues and stuff like that, right? So I don't think even mandatory conscription help globalists much to boost their military numbers. But they will try. They will try, by the way. And I guess I was one of the first commentators in alternative media who said, like years ago now, that European countries eventually will come to mandatory conscription, and they are clearly moving in that direction. Also, dear friends, reports are coming in that Israeli strike killed the Hezbollah special operations chief in Beirut, capital of Lebanon. Israeli Air Force struck southern Dehih in Beirut, killing Abu al-Tabtab, reportedly the movement's chief of special operations, and 4 other individuals. Lebanese media have published photos. Hezbollah has confirmed his death. IDF publicly confirmed the hit and said Benjamin Netanyahu personally authorized their operation after recommendations from the defense minister. And there was videos are circulating on internet, by the way, of massive damage that was done to area which was targeted by Israeli Air Force. And seems like Lebanon is absolutely helpless, by the way, to defend itself. Hezbollah is being decimated, kind of. Israel is killing Hezbollah members literally on daily basis. Israel strikes Lebanon every single day. They are killing not just Hezbollah members, but civilians left and right. They don't care. I don't know what happened to Hezbollah, by the way. That used to be significant force, but seems like they are, I don't know, man, how to describe, but where is the Hezbollah, man? Why they are not fighting back? Israel is killing them literally on daily basis, and Hezbollah is not retaliating. Maybe Israel was just very effective destroying Hezbollah, and maybe there is nothing left from this organization. Actually, hard to believe, because many experts in Middle Eastern affairs were saying, if you remember, that Hezbollah is like much more powerful organization than Hamas is. Then, well, Hamas still continues to fight, by the way, still exists despite everything that Israel threw at this group. Hezbollah seems like is out of the picture completely. So, and Hezbollah was the only force that was defending Lebanon, by the way, and Lebanese people. The Lebanese army is a joke, right? And controlled by Israel, believe it or not. So Hezbollah was the only hope for Lebanese people, and it seems like there is no more Hezbollah left, by the way, because this organization has been decimated by Israel. Maybe I'm wrong on that, and Hezbollah will actually give a fight to defend Lebanon, but when there is nothing left from Lebanon, when Israel will do with Lebanon what they did with their Gaza Strip, I don't know. You know, dear friends, I reported yesterday about no-fly zone being introduced by US over the Venezuela, and their planes actually are staying away from Venezuelan airspace. Also, reports are that US is launching some additional military operation, or is about to launch some additional operation, not necessarily with the strikes on Venezuela yet, right? And today we have this report that US posts now no-fly zone, basically, over international waters of the Gulf of Mexico. Unverified reports, footage from Monitor X. And this is the areas. This is the areas in Gulf of Mexico that will be no-fly zone. Maybe this area is being used by, I don't know, by bombers, by Air Force, by refueling tankers. Maybe Navy is present in this area. Who knows? But US is clearly preparing, getting closer and closer to the point when, well, there is nothing left but green light, to wait for a green light to launch a military operation. And this green light cannot come to US militaries until Washington will receive guarantees, some sort of guarantees from Moscow, that Russia will not seek revenge on US militaries, on US in general, right? For all the harm that US did to Russia while being part of this proxy war that Western elites are waging against the Russian Federation. And Washington did not receive my belief is that Washington did not yet receive no guarantees from Russia. So therefore, US militaries will still have to wait for that green light. And it's not fact, actually, that Moscow will give any guarantees to US. We will find out. But same time, we will understand, isn't it, that if US attacks Venezuela, then Russia definitely is one of the few countries in this world that is capable enough to provide Venezuelan people with strong enough capabilities that will turn Venezuela into a graveyard for US militaries, and the Gulf of Mexico or off coast of Venezuela into graveyard for US Navy. If any country can do this, if any country can provide sufficient enough assistance to Venezuelan people to achieve this goal, if US will attack, of course, is Russia. China too, by the way, but I don't think Chinese leadership will dare to escalate with US this much. But Russia has nothing to lose, really. US is already engaged in a proxy war against Russia, right? And the US already deployed its military intelligence, its weapons, everything, right, against Russia. So Moscow could not care less if Washington will be upset because of the Russian assistance to Venezuela or Cuba or any other adversary of their potential adversary of the US, right? And that's why I'm saying Washington needs to achieve some agreement with Russia, because they are not as strong as they think, by the way, in Washington. They are very much vulnerable, and we know this. So better if Washington will hurry pulling out US from this proxy war and agreeing on the concessions, tremendous concessions to Russia, right? Better they hurry, man, because otherwise US will face some very serious challenges. Let's say this way, diplomatically. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is reporting that, well, Trump, by the way, is going crazy, isn't it? Trump is going crazy. Everyone in the Western elites are kind of psycho, right? Some are more, some are less, maybe, but all of them are freaking patients of their psychiatric clinic, or supposed to be, or should be, right? They need treatment. And Trump is definitely no exception, and he's basically openly calling for prosecution of Democrat lawmakers that called militaries, US militaries, not to obey illegal orders, and nothing criminal about this call. US militaries and no militaries in the world should obey illegal orders, by the way. It's just it's a basics, right? But this kind of calls from some veterans in US that are in a part of democratic establishment, this cause didn't go down well with Trump and his affiliates, and they are accusing those Democrats now to be traitors, right? Although they did not commit a treason, not in this case, by the way. I don't know what else they did, but just to call militaries, I can call Russian militaries never to obey illegal orders, by the way. Anyone can call any military never to obey illegal orders, because no one should obey illegal orders. It's just simple stuff, and it's basics, right? So those US lawmakers, while calling US militaries to only obey legal orders and disobey illegal orders, they did not committed no treason, they did not broke no law, nothing, right? But Washington went crazy, or White House went crazy about this, and Trump himself personally too. And when I say they need some medical treatment, by the way, I actually mean that, because look what Trump published on his Truth Social. Some Democrats are kneeling before him, and Trump is depicted in this AI image as I don't know, some cartoon character or game character, right? As a sort of a king, warrior, something like that. I'm telling you, man, if you're only mentally ill individual can publish something like that. Healthy person will not publish this kind of stuff. Probably you will agree with me, isn't it? Trump needs some medical support, because this is not normal, man. When a president of nuclear superpower is publishing this kind of crap, this is not just not normal, but this is dangerous, because this idiot is the president of US. This psychopath, right? This mentally ill creature is the president of US, and formally speaking, he can launch nuclear missiles at any given point. So this is crazy, man. This is not okay whatsoever. I don't give a damn about Democrat or leadership or what they said and what they call, but I mean, U.S. president is mentally ill, man, and this is just too freaking bad, too dangerous. I mean, would you ever post fake picture like this, man? No. What the hell, right? Would you ever post picture of you being depicted as this something, while some people are kneeling before you and what the hell, man? Disgusting. Anyways, there are a few more news, dear friends, for this news segment, and well, interesting reports are coming from South Africa, where G20 summit is taking place. Several countries that we consider unfriendly offered us concrete projects to enhance economic cooperation with Russia. Deputy Chief of Staff of President's administration, Maxim Oreshkin, stated about it, about this development on the sidelines of G20. A list of unfriendly countries compares those who put sanctions against Russia. So maybe some European countries behind the closed doors are contacting Russian representatives and testing the ground for potential cooperation, future cooperation maybe. Could be Canada also, by the way, right? Australia, New Zealand. I mean, why Australia and New Zealand even went against Russia? I mean, where Australia and New Zealand is and where either Russia is or the Ukraine. Why would ever Australia and New Zealand will position themselves to be Russian enemy or hostile towards Russia? What, it makes no sense whatsoever, right? But you know, so interesting report from Maxim Oreshkin. But on the other hand, we should keep in mind what these very same countries, hostile countries or unfriendly countries did, man. And we should ask ourselves, can we ever trust them again? At least until local societies will reclaim these countries, right? And build their actual decent and the actual elites. Can we trust them before that happens? If local societies ever be able to reclaim their countries? I don't think so. I don't think we can trust this unfriendly leadership of these unfriendly countries, right? So therefore, we should just say, we should politely decline whatever offers they are coming up with. We should stay, we should be polite. You know what? No thanks. Good luck. And that's about it, right? Because they cannot be trusted. And we can only hope that people in Europe, for example, people in US, people in all the other countries in the collective West will somehow manage to reclaim their own country and have a say in their own destiny, right? In that case, those societies will probably promote some decent human beings in a position of elites, in a position of leadership. And with those people, with those elites, we can have some business, right? But not with current ones, man. How are you going to do business with the Merz and his government? I mean, seriously. Or with Macron and his government, man. You cannot, right? And, well, I mentioned Canada, isn't it? And there is a row that continues between US and Canada. And the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, went to say that the world can go on without the US, actually, and he's correct on that. Washington should not overestimate its role in the international arena. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has stated, adding that a wide range of issues can be resolved without US involvement. The economic center of gravity is also shifting away from America, he told the journalists on the sidelines of the G20 summit over the weekend. And who knows, maybe, by the way, Ottawa is one of those capitals that behind the closed doors are seeking some sort of cooperation with Russia. Could be case, right? But yet again, until Canadians will reclaim Canada, until they will promote actual decent human beings into a position of leadership, in position of elites, I don't think Moscow can have any serious business with their Ottawa man. And same goes for all the other countries in the collective West. Let their local societies in the West first reclaim their own country and have a say in their own destiny. Then we will talk. And this is it for news segment. Hopefully you did like it, dear friends. Hopefully the news segment was informative and useful. Let me check right now some media outlets for potential breaking news. So we have reports that US wants to have a separate meeting with the Russian. US delegation wants to have a separate meeting with the Russian delegation also to discuss this Trump's so-called 28-point peace plan. Okay, such a meeting might take place, but yet again, I think it's more and more looks like this offer or this initiative from Washington is a sort of last attempt of Washington to play along with the globalists to deceive Russia, and once they will fail, once they will realize that they're not gonna fool Russia, probably US leadership will use this failure of this 28 peace plan or this operation as a off ramp to pull out US from this proxy war. Let's see what's going to happen. But meanwhile, meeting between Russian delegation and US delegation might take place. I mean, how many times Russian and US representatives already met? One more, one less. Who cares? Today they're gonna be emergency EU summit on the topic of Ukraine. Probably on that emergency summit in Brussels. I guess it will be in Brussels. It's EU summit. So I guess this Trump's 28-point plan will be discussed also, and the summit gonna start literally in 7 minutes time, 12:30, 12:30 basically, Moscow time, and yes, that's about it. No breaking news, by the way, that I can report about right now. Although, of course, I will monitor developments, and if there will be enough news, then I will record a second news update, most likely in walking talk type of video, and full video will be published on my Patreon page and Boosty pages. But some short parts probably I will publish on YouTube and Rumble too. And dear friends, whenever you come across some short videos from my updates, please like those videos, or maybe if you can pay attention to it. And before I end this live stream, dear friends, let me highlight this screenshot. As I said, Scooby gifted one premium subscription to a member of community. So thank you very much, Scooby, for your support. Let me same time check Boosty, dear friends. Maybe there was some question on a Boosty or something. I see no question on Boosty. Okay, that's it then. That's it then, dear friends. Scooby, thank you very much for your gifter. It's a $5 donation, basically. That's what this means. Premium subscription on Rumble is a $5. So thank you very much, Scooby, for your support and attention. And that's it, dear friends. Hopefully you did like first update today, and if so, once again, please like the video, leave some commentary, and if you want to support my work, you can donate through PayPal or Boosty platforms. You can subscribe to my Patreon page, of course, or page on Boosty, and please do, if you can. On my part, I'll try to have as many extra content on Patreon and Boosty as I can. Have a wonderful day, and take care. Bye for now.